Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first ever Women in Landscaping webinar. My name is Kristen Kiely. If you don't know who I am the Chief Customer Experience Officer here at LeanScaper. What that means is I deal in anything customer facing, and I've had the privilege to meet all of these wonderful women who are going to be sharing their stories with you and some of the learnings that they've had along the way in their careers. We're going to jump right in right now. One of my favorite topics is, of course, women in the green industry. I think that in order for this industry to continue to grow, we really need to ensure that this is a welcoming industry for women. We want to create a safe place where all women feel like they can enter into this industry and grow and scale in their careers. So Alexis Dean believes that better leaders build better businesses, and better businesses build a better world. For more than 20 years, she's been helping leaders turn groups of good people into great teams that actually drive results. As the founder of Two Roads Training and Team Building, Alexis and her team work with Fortune 100 and fast-growing trades-based companies across North America to help leaders cut costly turnover, keep their best people, and get crews aligned and productive so that businesses can grow profitably and make an impact without burning out their teams. She's also the founder of the Dovetail Community, a mastermind and retreat series for powerhouse women entrepreneurs with 7 to 9 figure companies. Alexis brings real-world experience, practical leadership tools, and a little humor to every room she steps into. Please join me in welcoming Alexis Dean.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I am just going to go ahead and share my screen. We're trying something a little different with that today, so this should work. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So before we dive into this, I like to do things experientially. If anybody here has ever been through a training, you know that if it is just one directional, it gets to be pretty boring pretty quickly. So today's session is going to start off with a quick request. I need all of you, wherever you are in the world, to quickly grab a pencil and a paper, or any pen, any pencil, any marker, and any kind of paper. It can be a scrap, notebook, whatever you've got. You've got a quick couple seconds. Show it to me on screen when you've got it. Anything you've got, Post-its work, scraps, napkins, anything. All right, once you have that pencil, paper, pen, marker, your first task, you've got 60 seconds. I need you to draw a duck. It doesn't have to be this duck. It does not have to be any sort of, beautiful piece of artwork in any way, shape, or form. No questions, no clarifications, no need to worry about being some kind of professional artiste or what the heck this has to do with the subject matter. Just go ahead and draw me a duck. You have 60 seconds on the duck. Here we go. I was going to play Jeopardy music, but you'll just have to imagine it in your minds. So scroll through on 3, show us your ducks. 1, 2, 3. Show me your ducks, people. There's no shame in this. Bring it right up. Oh, look at these incredible artworks we are seeing here today. Beautiful, beautiful ducks. Incredible. All right, everyone took a good look at these duck masterpieces. And if you are not able to show your duck, if your camera is not on, I want you to jump into the chat and let us know. What does your duck look like? Is it majestic? Is it a mutant duck? A roadkill duck or a mighty duck? What does your duck look like? All right, my friends. So what just happened with this exercise, with this activity? What we discovered was that sometimes we get the same instructions and totally different results. Some of you went Picasso. Some of you went kindergarten art project. Some of you went to demon ducks. And none of this was about artistic talent. It was about clarity, or more often, a lack of clarity. So if you want your team to get their ducks in a row, then you've got to give them a row to get into. And this is exactly how things blow up on job sites and how they blow up in our organizations. So, what the heck, duck, does this have to do with leadership and women in the landscape industry? So, this little exercise shows what happens when we don't share that common understanding of success. When we say that we want to change the face of landscaping, to bring more women into the industry, to create companies where women feel like they truly belong, what does that really mean for us? Does that mean that we want more women in entry-level roles? Does it mean we want more women as apprentices? Or do we really want women at every level of our organizations, especially in leadership? Real change is only going to happen when we have more women in leadership in this industry. One of my favorite lines is, if you can see it, you can be it. So today, we're going to get our ducks in a row on what that really means for women. We're going to change how we're showing up and how we're leading, regardless of our gender or background, because this session isn't just for women. It's for anyone who wants a stronger business and a team that actually works. So my next activity for you is, I would love to see you in the chat type one word to describe typical leadership in landscaping today. How would you describe typical leadership in landscaping today? And there are no wrong answers here. What have we got here? Grassroots, micromanaging, missing, untrained, bossing and barking, patriarchal tunnel vision, disorganized, scattered, reactive, babysitting, fragmented, male dominated, chaos. You are not alone. If you read through these, you will see that you are not alone in some of how you're feeling about leadership today. This isn't fluff. This is a conversation about leadership that will make or break the industry, and it starts with how we lead people within our worlds, not just how we lead projects. So why does this matter? Half the potential workforce is untapped. The landscape industry is in a talent crisis. We're in a leadership crisis. Crews are short, retention is really hard, and half the potential workforce is sitting on the sidelines. Women aren't just a nice to have or a quota for your company. They are one of the biggest untapped growth strategies that we have. And it's not just about numbers. Studies show that women score higher in collaboration, in empathy, in long-term thinking, in proactivity, resilience, and more. This is exactly what keeps crews aligned and keeps our companies growing. That is a definitive competitive edge. So over the last 20 years or so, I have worked with hundreds of companies across trades-based industries around the world. And the pattern is almost always the same. Leadership will make or break the business. You can have the best systems, the best software, the best equipment, the best clients, the biggest ambition. But if people don't trust and respect and want to follow your leaders, then it will all fall apart. So as we shared at the beginning, I believe that better leaders create better businesses, and better businesses have the power to create a better world. So I know in LeanScaper, we're a little bit obsessed with the word waste. If you spend any time around the LeanScaper crew, I know we hear a lot about how we want to reduce waste in all ways. I hate wasted potential the way that you hate wasted time on sites. And nothing kills me more than seeing good people leave a job that they love because the leadership stinks. So I have a question for you. I would love for you to think about the best leader you have ever worked with, whether it's in landscaping or your first burger flipping job, babysitting, whatever it was. What made them great? What made them a great leader? And I'd love for you to type a word or two in the chat about that leader. And again, it doesn't have to be in landscaping. What made them a great leader? And if you're here, I want you to scroll through and read through all of these. They protected their people. They were kind. They were honest. They were team focused. They were consistent. They coached. They showed appreciation. They trusted. They shared information. They really listened. They were a visionary. They were selfless. They were consistent. They led by example. There are so many good ones here. They had a boots on the ground approach. They saw you as more than just your position, growing people and not just the business. They were understanding. They were an advocate. They were empowering. I mean, these are all beautiful things. They're servant leaders. They weren't selfish. They wanted to see everyone succeed. These are incredible reflections and so important for us to keep in mind. Everyone here seems to have had the opportunity to work with a really great leader, and that makes me so happy for you because, again, when we can see it, we can be it. They were transparent. Beautiful. So you'll notice that on this huge list of, the traits of the greatest leaders we have ever worked with, no one said she was the best in the skid steer. No one said anything about their ability with tools or software or anything else. They said they listened, they cared, they pushed me to grow. And that's what real leadership is. It's what keeps people on your crew and in your organization, keeping them wanting to come back tomorrow and to continue to work hard. Leadership is shifting. So command and control versus transformational leadership. So here's the deal. The old model of leadership was command and control. Some of those things that we heard people saying about typical leadership in landscaping today, even, barking orders, aggression, fear, micromanagement. And it may have sort of worked in the past if you really just wanted compliance. But compliance doesn't last, and it doesn't really scale companies. With command and control, you've got people showing up, but they're not staying, and they don't really give you their best work. And they are definitely not interested in stepping into leadership themselves, unless there's some kind of militaristic character who really wants to have command and control over people, which is not the ideal employee for your organization. Command and control says, do it because I said so and I'm your boss. Transformational leadership says, here's the outcome we need. Here's why it matters. Let's make sure you know how to do this. And I believe that you can make this happen. So let's be real. Most women and most leaders aren't signing up for control, yelling, and intimidation. That's not how they want to work. It's not where they want to work. We want leaders who listen, who coach, who set clear expectations, teach skills, and who let people do their jobs without hovering over them once they understand what they need to do. So a really practical example of this would be leader version A says, all right, I need you to lay some stone from here to there. Try not to screw it up like you did last time, and I'll be back in 20 minutes to check on your work. Translation, I'll be back in 20 minutes to probably criticize you, maybe demean you, and possibly just take over and do it myself. That would be command and control. The result is a crooked path, slow progress, and very likely a frustrated employee. Leader version B says, all right, I need you to lay a 20-foot long, 2-foot wide flagstone path from the patio to the shed as straight as possible, with seams tight enough so a kid's trike doesn't get stuck, just like that Springfield Drive job that we did last week together. The equipment list is on this pad here. All the materials and the tools that you need are behind the shed and in the truck. And if you're unsure, you can call me or ask Bob here to help you. You've been doing really great work so far, and I know you're going to nail this. Do you have any questions? And is everything clear before I have to leave? That's clarity, trust, empowerment. You'll get a better job, a happier crew member, and someone who thinks, I really belong here and I can grow here. And most importantly, they trust me. It might take an extra minute or two up front to communicate this way, but in the long run, you are saving time, money, and reducing waste. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates ownership. Ownership creates retention and scaling effectively. So a simple tool that I like to use when we're doing leadership training is the 3 C's to building trust and ownership: clarity, coaching, and consistency. Clarity is defining success before the work even starts, which gives people confidence that they know what's expected of them. Coaching is equipping people with the tools, the context, and the encouragement to succeed. It's building capacity on your team. And consistency is showing up the same way every day. Your crew should never wonder which version of the boss or which version of my colleague am I getting today. This builds safety because people know what to expect from you. And these things really apply even if you are not leading yet in your organization. If you are an emerging leader, if you're someone who's working in more of a field role or a junior leadership position and you're working your way, or apprentice position, I should say, working your way into leadership, these things apply to you too. Understanding what success looks like before the work starts, being coachable and being open to coaching, or coaching the peers that you have that are looking for support. and showing up the same way every day so that everyone on your team knows exactly what to expect from you, which version of you is going to be there to support them. Bosses skip the 3 C's, leaders live the 3 C's. And the payoff when you have all three is that you get that trust and ownership. And when these 3 things overlap, people don't just comply, they commit. They feel trusted, they take ownership, they see themselves as future leaders in your organization. So my reflection question for you, and you can type it in the chat if you're open to it, but which of these 3 C's, clarity, coaching, or consistency, do you most need to double down on in your leadership right now? I want you to think about it for a minute. And we all have areas of growth. This isn't, a knock on you in any way, but there's an area that we can all work on: clarity, coaching, or consistency. So if you've ever heard me speak before, or if I've done any work with you or your team, I don't want you to answer this question. But if we are new to working with each other, and if you've never heard of Google's Project Aristotle, I would love for you to type in the chat, what do you think the number one predictor of team success is? What is the number one predictor of team success, if you had to take a guess from the research? Alignment, collaboration, communication, common goal, trust, building strong leaders, mindset. These are all really important predictors of team success. So Google conducted a study of hundreds of high-performing teams across the world. And the number one predictor of success of a team wasn't skill, it wasn't IQ, it wasn't transparency or consistency. It was one thing. It was psychological safety. And I know if you've been hearing Mark speak about this and the rest of the team, they talk about safety, and safety applies in so many ways in this industry. But the most important way that it applies is when it comes to psychological safety. And psychological safety is knowing that you're not going to be punished or humiliated for speaking up with an idea, a question, a concern, or a mistake. I wish I had a photo of it, but I'm going to tell you a little story about psychological safety and the real impacts of how it can happen at work. So I ski at a little ski resort called Sir Sam's in Ontario. And at the top of our ski hill, and I shared this like way back in Orlando at Elements, you may have seen this picture at one point, but at the top of our ski hill, there is this tower, and it is a steel tower, and it is 5 stories tall. And, according to some reports from the resort, it cost them upwards of $300,000 to build. And this tower was intended to be, a beautiful wedding venue with views out over the lake and the ski hill and the forest. And, they had this big idea for it. And there were like a couple of dozen people working on this tower. And this tower went up level by level. And, as it was going up, people were very excited about it. They're excited to have weddings there. And by the time they got up to the last level on this tower, someone finally realized that the tower was built facing in the wrong direction. So all of the glass viewing areas were not facing in the direction of the beautiful ski hill and the lake beyond and the forest. The viewing areas were facing the forest and swamp on the other side of this viewing tower. And this place that was meant to be this lovely wedding venue and, upwards of $300,000 to build was now just this sort of giant, expensive waste of space. And that is what happens when you don't have psychological safety. When the over dozen people who were working on this project didn't say, hold on, I think something's going wrong. I think we're building this the wrong way. Why are we putting glass on the wrong side of the tower? Why are we facing a swamp with this beautiful lookout? And they didn't speak up, and they didn't raise their hands, and they didn't acknowledge that things could be going terribly sideways. And why was that? Because they didn't want to be the one who was wrong, or they didn't want to make anybody else look bad, or they didn't want to question the boss, the boss or the architect or whoever was responsible. Well, it's not my circus, not my monkeys. I don't know if you've heard that before. But definitely a situation where additional psychological safety could have saved a lot of money and time and effort, and in the long run, a bit of humiliation. And this is an example of what happens without psychological safety. So if we want women in this industry to lead, if we want people to step up and lead in general, they need to know that their voices matter, that they are being heard, that we care to hear them. Because if they can't speak up without being shut down or being afraid of being shut down, they will walk. or they'll do the most basic version of their jobs and we'll end up with $300,000 towers facing the wrong way. And when people walk, they don't walk alone. Psychological safety is what keeps everyone on the crew working in the same direction. So I would love to know in the chat, if your crew could wake up tomorrow with one new leadership habit, what would you pick? What would you like for everyone on your team or on your crew? Amazing. Read through these, my friends. If you are a leader or an aspiring leader, take note here. This is what people really want and what they really need. We don't get there through command and control. We get there through transformative leadership. So when I talk about this, people often ask, well, what am I supposed to do when I see this happening? What do I do when I see someone behaving in a way that's coming from old school leadership, from command and control leadership? And sometimes we feel like these things are out of our power and we kind of sit back and say, well, maybe this organization's not for me, or maybe this role isn't for me, but we have options here. So when we see this happening, number one, you can lead from your role. You can model clarity, respect, and listening, regardless of your title, regardless of your role within the organization. This is a great leadership skill for all of us to develop. Number two, we can ask better questions. I know this is also something Mark talks about a lot. But a question example here for when we see command and control leadership happening is, can you help me understand what success looks like here? We can practice that ourselves. We can teach our teams to ask that question, to say, can you help me understand what success looks like here? Because I really want to hit the mark. This helps create clarity without threat. And it can come from both ends. It doesn't have to just come from leadership. Getting our people used to asking that question serves everyone on the team. Number three, we can offer feedback with respect. So that usually looks like private feedback. Saying something like, when voices are raised on the team, I see people shutting down. And if we define success up front, I think that we might hit it faster together. It doesn't have to come, in a confrontational manner, and it doesn't have to come in front of the rest of the team. It can be in private and really asking those questions or making those suggestions with feedback. And then lastly, find allies. One voice is really easy to ignore. 10 voices saying the same thing. That is how we create culture shift. And for the leaders who are here, if people are afraid to speak up, that is your sign that command and control has crept into your team. So how do we stop it? We ask for input. We really listen to that input, and then we act on it. A little tool for you. The one more question rule. And again, going back to asking better questions. This is a tool that you can bring to your team tomorrow morning. I'd say Monday morning, but we're already Monday afternoon. Before you give an instruction, I want you to ask yourself, have I explained the outcomes, why it matters, and what support looks like here? Have I explained the outcome, why it matters, and what support looks like? If not, you're still bossing and you're not leading. And a little hint on this one, and sometimes I'll run workshops and actually give people the little fortune cookie piece of paper or give fortune cookies, is that if your instructions can fit on a fortune cookie, you are not leading, you are setting people up to screw up. So we need more than the fortune cookie response. So where do you still see command and control in your company? And what would shift if your team could lead with trust, clarity, and accountability instead? I want you to think about that for a moment. And if you're open to it, I'd love to see it in the chat. Where do you still see command and control happening in your company? Is it when things go awry on site? Is it when there are tight deadlines or frustration? When do you still see this happening? And what would shift if your team could lead with trust, clarity, and accountability instead? So trust and clarity and accountability gives us leadership that people actually want to follow. So my goal for you is that you can stop babysitting and start scaling while creating the kind of workplaces where women and all people want to lead. I have bad news for you. That regardless of your role in your organization, the bottleneck, if you're feeling one, is often related to you, or it might even be you. 9 times out of 10, the bottleneck is staring us back in the mirror. It's really easy to blame our colleagues or crews or clients, the market, but most leaders that I meet are excellent at fixing other people's problems and really terrible at fixing their own bad habits. That's not shame, that's just the job. If you want a different crew or a different team, you've got to start with different leadership for yourself. And if you're sitting here in this Zoom room thinking, I'm not a leader, and the issue at our company is really somebody else, and you're pointing fingers at everyone else in your organization, there are still 3 fingers pointing back at you if you're pointing the other way. So it's time for a bit of a gut check. What is the one thing that is holding your team back? Is it something that you are avoiding or excusing? I want you to check in the chat if you're open. I mean, I'm asking brave questions here, and I know that sometimes we're not willing to speak out about it, but I want you to think for a moment. And if you are brave today, I want you to answer in the chat. What is the one thing that's holding your team back? So often we have these answers ourselves. We already kind of know what needs to be happening, and yet something is stopping us. And often that something is ourselves. So leadership really starts with self-leadership. Before we can talk about industry leadership, or before we can even talk about leadership on our teams, we've got to be thinking about how we are leading ourselves. Leadership isn't just skills and spreadsheets, it is biological. If your nervous system is on fire, if you are in fight or flight, if you're feeling rushed or reactive or rattled or burnt out, your team will mirror that. You can't regulate the rest of your crew or your team if you cannot regulate yourself. It is as simple and as difficult as that. So what do we do when we're feeling burnt out, when we're feeling rattled, when things are going sideways, whether it's in the office or on the site? I want you to start following the 90-second rule, which is wait, breathe, and respond. It's based in neuroscience. It states that you don't have to act on every single emotion that you feel. Most emotions are physiological spikes that run about 90 seconds. That when we think we're caught in an emotion like anger or fury or, we're stressed out, whatever it is, when we want to avoid blowing up, or when we want to avoid blowing up on the job site or whatever's happening, or panicking or falling into anger or old habits, we just need 90 seconds to check ourselves. And that 90 seconds can look like counting it out, taking a walk, or breathing. Giving it a chance for that fire to burn down, for those emotions that are running high to slow down a little bit so that we can respond instead of reacting. And I know we've probably all heard this before, that, give yourself a breather and take a moment. But sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment and things are happening and you're on a site, whatever's going on, or you're in the office, these things can get to us. And so I want to teach you a little tool that everyone can use, regardless of where you are, whether you are driving, whether you are out in the field, whether you are in the office, whatever's going on, we all have 90 seconds or even 60 seconds. And sometimes it doesn't even take that long. So we're going to talk about tactical breathing. Now, this is a skill that I learned when I did a sniper rifle shooting retreat. And if you've ever met me, I am not the most likely person to participate in sniper rifle shooting. In fact, before this retreat, had never shot a gun in my life. Don't really have a big hunting background at all in my family. And to be honest, guns just scared the heck out of me. But I agreed to go on this sniper rifle shooting experience because some entrepreneur friends of mine had invited me and it sounded like it would be interesting. Let me tell you, it was interesting. It was a real learning experience. But what I learned from this sniper rifle shooting retreat was not necessarily about how to shoot at anyone across a large distance. It was how to regulate my own nervous system. And this is the skill that is practiced by members of military. It is practiced by some of the most high performing athletes in the world, and some of the most successful leaders in just about every industry that I've ever worked with. So tactical breathing is also known as box breathing, and it's a way to clear your head, regulate your nerves within a minute or less. I encourage people to do it for 90 seconds because that's how much time it takes to shift our emotional state. So I want you to practice it with me. So wherever you're sitting, if you're driving, you can do this, but don't close your eyes or anything. I'm not encouraging anyone to close their eyes. Just put your feet on the floor. You're going to inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Then exhale through your mouth for 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Then hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Then inhale through your nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. One more round. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through your mouth for 4, 3, 2, 1. And you can resume your normal breathing. This tactical breathing, somebody just mentioned, works really well before presentations. It works well in any situation where you need a nervous system reset. You can use it after a nasty client call, before a huddle, if you're running on adrenaline. It is the difference between ordering people around and command and control and actually showing up as the calm in the storm. And again, this isn't a gendered thing. This is creating a workplace where everyone feels welcome, where everyone is able to show up as their best selves, and where everyone sees themselves as the type of leader that you are. So here's something you can use as well tomorrow. The mirror test. Every time you're frustrated with your crew, I want you to ask yourself, am I modeling the behavior that I really want to see in others? And again, this applies at every level of an organization, every level of leadership. If you want accountability, are you meeting your commitments? If you want calm, are you calm under pressure? And if the answer is no, you can start there. You've got to change your end of the stick because people follow what they see. So one last useful tool, is our energy audit. So leading from fuel versus leading from fumes. So are you leading from depletion or from intention? If you're showing up drained or frantic or reactive, that's how others around you are going to show up. So a smart move that we recommend is, again, just doing a 60-second energy audit when you start your day. When you're coming into work, can you pause for a second and check with yourself? Am I leading from fuel or from fumes? And if it's fumes, what do I need to change before I step onto that job site? Maybe it's 10 minutes more sleep tomorrow. Maybe it's a 5-minute walk. Maybe it's pausing for 90 seconds of tactical box breathing. Whatever you need to do to take responsibility for the energy that you are bringing into the space. This isn't woo-woo stuff. This is literally used by militaries across the world and some of the most high-performing people we've ever worked with. So that energy audit is a really quick way to check yourself. So this week, I want to challenge you to try a few new things. They're just 3, 4 tiny things that you can do to make a huge difference in how you're showing up. So number 1, tactical breathing. Number 2, the 90-second pause. Number 3, the mirror test. And number 4, starting your day with an energy audit in the morning. It's behavior, not a sermon, and you'll be surprised at how fast people notice the difference in how you're showing up. When leaders regulate themselves, they stop burning out their crews and they start building careers. And if you want more women in leadership, There have to be leaders who are modeling balance, clarity, and trust and regulated nervous systems, not chaos. That's the only pathway to a stronger industry and to bringing more women into leadership. If leaders aren't modeling these things, women won't see leadership in this industry as worth it to them. So you can't grow leaders if you're not leading yourself. I want you to start small, focus on breathing, waiting 90 seconds, doing that mirror test, because your crew, your business, and the future of this industry will thank you. One of my favorite quotes to remember is that self-leadership is like deodorant. The people who need it most are often the last to know. And if you're thinking, this doesn't apply to me, I don't need these woo-woo strategies, I hate to tell you, but it probably does. But that's the opportunity. You can go first, you can own it, and you can grow. And that's what real leadership looks like. Getting into building a better industry. So if landscaping looks the same in 10 years, we have failed. We'll still be fighting the same battles, labor shortages, retention issues, burnt out crews, and a reputation that doesn't exactly scream, come join us, you'll love it here. But the good news is that it doesn't have to be like this. One of the biggest opportunities is bringing more women into this industry. And again, not as a quota, but as a smart growth strategy. So what's stopping us from getting there? Some of the biggest barriers that we have are culture. We've got command and control leadership, yelling, bullying, the old boys club, recruitment issues. We're rarely recruiting women intentionally still in this industry. We've got perception issues. People don't see landscaping as a long-term professional path, not just for women, but for everyone. And if these things don't change, then the pipeline doesn't change. And the face of landscaping doesn't change. But the good news is there are opportunities. We've got role models, women speaking up in the industry, showing what's possible. We've got mentorship programs and apprenticeships that are starting to teach people the skills that they really need to excel as leaders for growth opportunities. And we've got leadership pipelines with clear training, steps, and support to grow more female leaders in landscaping. So I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What is one small change that your company can make to attract or grow more women leaders? What is one small change? Something that could be done soon. Yes, to maternity and paternity coverage. I know that's one we haven't even touched on, but if we're looking to change the face of this industry, we need to make it a space where women see that they are supported, not just at work, but in their family lives as well. Women and men, I should say. That's for everyone. And yes, please no more men's extra large polo t-shirts as the only uniforms available or ill-fitting outdoor gear does not serve our recruitment efforts for women. So I'd love to know 10 years from now, what does landscaping really look like if we really changed? What does landscaping look like in 10 years from now? What are the possibilities for this industry? So again, it's not about quotas. It's about the strength of your company and the strength of this industry. It's about leading differently. We can't say that we want women in leadership if the culture is still driving people out. And self-leadership becomes industry leadership. So this isn't about just one company. It's about all of us. And that's why LeanScaper asked my company, Two Roads Training, to join as advisors for leadership training. They know that leadership isn't just a buzzword, it's survival. Systems, equipments, clients, all of this matters. But without great leaders, then nothing will hold. And we can't keep leading the same way that we've always led and expect different results. That's literally the definition of insanity. It starts with each of us taking an honest look at ourselves, how we are showing up as leaders, and making changes. So we built something, a little tool that you're all welcome to test out. It is completely free. It's available on our website. It's called the Leadership Tendencies Self-Assessment. It is a quick 5-minute online tool that shows your natural leadership style, your strength, and most importantly, the blind spots that you may have. Regardless of what your role is, where you are in the organization, you can try this out. Take the Leadership Tendencies assessment on our site. We can't change what we can't see is one of our mottos in our organization. And so this is a really easy way to see where our opportunities are. So I'll leave you with this. If we keep leading with the old way, in 10 years, we'll be stuck. But if we lead with clarity, with trust, with accountability, and transformational leadership, people will want to stay. And women will see real leadership paths for themselves. That's how we reshape this industry. The future belongs to leaders who lead differently. So before we go, I want to make sure that you are taking action from today. There are going to be 2 more sessions after this, and you'll have lots of opportunities to hear great ideas. But none of this matters if you just sit and listen, or you play this in the background today with whatever you're doing and you don't do anything about it. So I want you to commit in the chat to just one small shift that you can make. Not that your whole company has to make or that your peers have to make, but what is one small shift that you can make toward change, a commitment to change. In your leadership, what is one small shift? Thank you all so much for showing up today for yourselves, for your team. Change doesn't happen in giant leaps. It happens in the small choices that we're all making that compound over time. Our choice to give one clearer instruction or have one better huddle or have one moment that you step back so that someone else can step up. That's how we change this industry. When women come into this industry, what they're looking for is there a place for us here? The answer depends on how each of us chooses to show up. And this isn't just inclusion, it's strength. Stronger leadership keeps your crews, keeps projects on track, and grows the bottom line. You don't have to fix everything by tomorrow, but you can pick one thing and actually do it and commit to it for yourself. So thank you for showing up. The future starts with you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alexis. That was such a wonderful 45 minutes. I don't know about you guys. I just feel so moved by everything that Alexis said, but also by the engagement that we've had in this chat. It's very clear that you guys are leaning in. You understand the message that Alexis was putting out there. And I'm just so excited to see how we can change this industry with some of the learnings that we got from Alexis's presentation. As Alexis mentioned, she is a LeanScaper advisor. So if you in your organization are looking for some leadership, team coaching, please don't hesitate. Reach out to your guide. We'd love to get you guys in touch with Alexis and her team.